Itchy Fingers, very popular reel. We're just going to break this down into bars and phrases, then progress through the part. So the first part, there's nothing really in the first part that should catch you out. We're just going to take this really slowly. So let's go for the first, have a look at the first phrase then. Usually you would go straight in on this E. You wouldn't play the little anacrusis, you'd play that going back into the part, as you can see it. When you repeat the part, you play it here, and then going into the second part, then you play it again. But we're just going to start on this E. I'm going to go for the first bar in the phrase then. So we've got an E doubling, then an E strike, F, G grace note to E, low A, G grace note to C, E. And again, always the most important part of the doubling is this G grace note lands right on the beat. 1, 2. One, two. One, two. Second phrase then. So it's a G grace note onto the F, low A, G grace note to D, F, E doubling, G grace note to C, then the D. 1, 2. One, two. One, two. So let's go for the whole phrase now then. 1, 2. One, two. The first bar in the second phrase is exactly the same as the first bar in the line. So let's go for the second bar then. Second bar in the second phrase. And we're going to finish on this E doubling. So you've got your G grace note on your C, D grace note down to low A, which might take a little bit of practice. G grace note up to the D again, C, and then the B strike here. Some players will play this open, and this one's slightly more closed on a crotchet note. Then a G grace note up to the C, D, and then up to the E doubling. So we'll just go from this after time. 1, 2. One, two. One, two. And the same as the doubling, the most important part of the B strike is this G grace note, that it lands right on the beat. So let's try that phrase now, again ending on this E doubling. 1, 2. One, two. On this E. So just mark it from this E doubling. And we're going to finish on this E doubling. So I'm going to put it on the metronome at 40 BPM and using the polyrhythm of 4. So it's going to bring out these 4 notes here to make sure that you're playing these 4 notes nice and even. This is obviously 2 clicks of the polyrhythm, the crotchets. All right, so after a count of 2, 1, 2. So the first phrase in the second line is almost identical to the first phrase in the first line, just this E at the end. Instead of a D up here, you go up to the E. So we're just going to do this full phrase then. 1, 2. And just form this D. So before each phrase, form the note that you're going from. So you're coming from this D onto the E doubling. So just, you don't need to blow it, just form the D. 1, 2. Into the second phrase of the second line. Just going to take the first bar, so G grace note on the D, down to the C, G grace note separates the two C's, then down to the B, G grace note separates the two B's, then up to the F, G grace note the E, and then the B. After 2, 1, 2. One, 2. 1, 2. And then into the second bar of the phrase, C doubling, E grace note down to the low A and then the burl, and then we're going to go back into the part, so G grace note to C up to the D and then the E doubling. So the second phrase, just forming this B again, or the second bar in the phrase, sorry. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. So let's do the whole phrase now then. Again, going back into the first part. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 'So the whole of the line, the whole of the second line in the first part, and again we're going to go back into the start of the part again. So again on the metronome at 40 BPM, joining after a count of 2. 1, 2. 1, 1, 2. So we're going to go for the whole of the first part then. We're going to play the part twice. So it's got a little second time bar, which is really just the same as going back into the first part. And we're going to finish up onto this high A. So again on the metronome at 40 BPM, join in after a count of 2. 1, 2. 1, So into the first phrase in the second part, slightly more tricky, just going from the bottom hand to the top hand, just making sure that you always form the notes correctly. Just really take your time in this. So we're going to take the first bar in this first phrase in the second part. One, again, just form this E, and then you're going up to the high A with a high A strike, and down to the low A, high A, down to the C, high A, down to the low A, and back to the high A again. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. And on to the second bar in the phrase. So coming from the high A to the F, high A, D, high A, half E doubling, G grace note in the C, and then up to the E. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. So the second phrase is a combination of this bar and this bar up here. So we're just going to do the whole of the second phrase of this of the second part. So up to the high A strike, down to the low A, high A, C, high A, low A, high A, and then the same as up here. Obviously you can't play a G grace note in this. C, D grace note down to the low A, G grace note to the C, D, B strike, G grace note to the C, and then up to the E. And we'll finish on this high A strike here. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 'The first line in the second part. Again in the metronome, making sure that every one of these notes is on the poly beat. It's just on that pulse beat run the whole way through the tune. So again, join in after a count of 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. The second line in the second part. This first phrase is exactly the same as the first phrase in the part. The second phrase in the line is this bar and this bar, and then go back into it. So we'll go back into this high A strike. We're going to do the whole line now and back into the part again. So we'll put this straight onto the metronome after a count of 2. 1, 2. 1, 1, 2. 1, there's a second time bar in the second part. The only difference in the line is this second bar. So we'll just do that first of all. So after 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So the whole of the line then on the metronome after 2, 1, 2. One, two. So the whole of the second part then, played twice with the second time bar. After a count of 2, 1, 2. So we're going to play the whole tune, each part twice, with the second time bars, and remembering that the second time through the second part, this is a D. So we're going to increase the tempo to 50 BPM, but we're still going to use the polyrhythm. So after a count of 2, 1, 2.